It's kind of crazy because when we talk about the outlook of the Western Conference, we talk about the powerhouses, the Denvers, the OKCs, the Dallases, the Minnesotas. Then we talk about the middle of the pack, high profile teams like Lakers, Clippers, and Warriors, and all this other talk. New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, Wemby. It just feels like the Memphis Grizzlies have been significantly forgotten in the conversation of the Western Conference playoff picture. Now, obviously, I understand why. It's because last year they weren't very good, very injury riddled, 27-55, 13th in the West. Ja, if you remember, suspended for the first 25 games, comes back for 9, gets hurt, misses the rest of the season. Jaren Jackson Jr. was the healthiest Grizzly last year, and he only played in 66 games. Marcus Smart playing just 20, Desmond Bane missed 40. It was a really bad year for them. But the thing I think that's just so easy to forget is literally 2 years ago, this Grizzlies team was the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, in this same loaded Western Conference. Now, obviously, bringing that up as an example of how good the Grizzlies can be comes with a bit of, disclaimer asterisk, because the last image we saw of that Grizzlies team 2 years ago was them being eliminated by the 7th seeded Lakers in the first round of the playoffs. And there was, Ja was still going through some of that stuff that he, with the guns and whatnot. And then it happened again in the offseason. And also there was the Dylan Brooks antics, stuff like that. But I just think there's the core of what made that team the number 2 seed and what we all thought was the team of the future, a team with such a bright future, they're going to dominate, kind of how we feel about OKC. That core is still there. Ja Morant, of course he needs to stay healthy and out of trouble. But when this dude plays, you can't deny he's one of the best players, point guards in the NBA. In the 9 games he played in last year, he averaged 25 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. Desmond Bane, great shooter who got a ton of on-ball reps last year without Ja Morant, without Jaren Jackson Jr. for a bit. I think that's going to be so massive in his development. Averaged a career high 23 points a game last year. Him getting those on-ball reps, I think, is going to be great for him being more of the co-star to Ja Morant. Jaren Jackson Jr., similar to Bane, also took on more of a scoring load, put up a career high 22 points, won Defensive Player of the Year not that long ago. G.G. Jackson, 19 years old last year, showed so much potential, could really be the answer that the Grizzlies have been looking for at that small forward spot. Marcus Smart, the guy they brought in 2 off seasons ago, you hope he can stay healthy and bring exactly what Marcus Smart brings. They drafted Zach Edey with the 9th pick to help them fill out their center spot. That's going to, be massive. He is massive, so that's going to be great because Steven Adams has missed a lot of the last 2 years. That's part of why they got rid of him. And so there's all these pieces in place that really can help you remember, oh, right, this is why this Grizzlies team was so elite, why we were so hyped on them, why we believe they were going to had such a bright future. Obviously, a lot of stuff has gotten in the way, but if everything works out, whether it's health or off the court stuff, all that stuff is still there and more. Now, what does that mean for their ability to compete in the Western Conference for, the conference finals and beyond? I don't fully know, because at the end of the day, they do have to stay healthy. They do have to stay out of trouble. And, we don't really know even then what this team is going to look like. Does Marcus Smart start? Then what does a backcourt of Ja Morant and Marcus Smart look like? Is there enough shooting? So we really don't know. And I also don't think it's fair to the Minnesotas, to the Dallases, to the Denvers, to the OKCs to pick Memphis ahead of them, because those teams proved themselves last year, whereas Memphis is still, we still sort of have to see it to believe it. It's a what have you done recently, and Grizzlies obviously have not done a lot recently, so they need to regain our trust, so to speak. But at the very least, I believe that their track record, in making the playoffs a number of times, in getting that number 2 seed, and just all the pieces that they had and all the pieces that they brought in, I think at the very least you should reinsert them into the conversation of, wow, the Western Conference is so loaded. Look at all these teams. I think the Grizzlies at the very least deserve to be back in that conversation in some form or another. Definitely more than they've been this entire offseason, which in my opinion has just been 0.